So next video is this quick recap on macros, right? So not to do too much, just a quick recap that can help you remember a few things that we discussed when we went over macros. So remember, first things first, to use your macros, you need your developer tab. So to get your developer tab, you need to be able to add it. So to add your developer tab, right click on any tab, click on customize the ribbon, and when you get here, you go to the you go onto the right hand side of this window and then click on developer, and then you click on OK, and now you'll have your developer tab, right? So your developer tab is where you have all the groups that you need to work with macros. All right, so without wasting too much time, first things first, we need to be able to record a macro. Remember, you click on record macro here, and then once you start recording your macro, you do all the steps that you need to do, and then always make sure to remember to stop recording your macro at the end of all the work that you need to do. And then you might want to add a form control, so that's in the controls group. So if you want to add it, you click on insert, and in my case, I want to add a checkbox form control, so I click on that, and then I can insert it, for example, here. And remember, if you want to edit the text of this checkbox form control, you can. So if it's not selected, if the checkbox is not selected, what you do is you hold control on your keyboard, then you click on it, and then you let go of control, then you can click on the text. And then you can remove all the text by pressing delete or pressing backspace to remove that text. And then maybe I want to call this one online. Okay. So there's my checkbox, and I've given it the new name online. Um, and then once I'm done with the text, I can press on escape, and you'll see that the checkbox is no longer selected. What can I do to this checkbox? I can link it to a certain cell so that when this checkbox is ticked, that cell will say true, and when this checkbox is not ticked, that cell will say false. So to do that, I right click on it and I say format control. So I click on format control, and you'll see you have this dialog box that pops up where you can choose the cell link, right, which is the cell that the form control be linked to. So in my case, I want to choose A1. So if you're working with me as well, choose A1, and then you can choose whether it's going to be checked, unchecked, or mixed. In our case, this is leave it as unchecked. You could choose to give it 3D shading, and you'll see what that looks like. You could also work on the size, the colors, and all those things in the alt text by going to these different tabs, but you can play around with that on your own. So once I click on OK, you'll see that it has that 3D shading to it, and it's actually now linked to cell A1. So if I click in cell A1 there, you see there's no value whatsoever, and then when I tick this, you'll see A1 becomes true. When I untick it, A1 becomes false. All right, so that's how it works, right? So you can just check your formula bar to see what the value would be for A1 and so forth. So while it's unticked, I want to assign a macro to this, right? So to assign a macro, I right click and then I click on assign macro. So any object that you want to assign a macro to, you right click, then you click on assign macro. And then in this case, we'll apply the online macro, assign the online macro. And sometimes you might want to edit this macro. So you would click on it, then click on edit. And you'll see that you'll get your VBA, right, which is your Microsoft Visual Basic Editor, like this, where you could edit your macros. So if I needed to do any editing, remember, you'll be told exactly what you need to do to edit your macro, what you need to type. So all you do is you find the line where you're supposed to type, then you type whatever you're told to type. Right. In our case, we don't want to do any editing. We just want to assign that macro. So if you right click, assign macro, choose the online, click on OK, and that gets assigned to this checkbox. So this means that if for example, I was using this, or I created this to calculate what the amount should be for the online sales. So let's say the online sales are missing, and in your case, when you get this worksheet, you'll see that the online sales will be missing. If I remember to fix that, I'll just note that down. So the online sales will be missing, but I have the total and I have all the other sales. So that means I can find my online sales. So maybe the online sales are the ones that we cannot find because maybe they're on the website. So it'll be difficult for us to go get the data. And we know from the shop, this is, or from the business's premises, this is what we sold. So we know that everything else will be online. So what we would do then is we will tick the online box and it'll go on to calculate for us, right? As long as this is true, it goes on to calculate what should be in there if it's online sales, right? So if it's not true, you'll see that it should be blank, and then if it's true, then it will calculate the amount that that's there. So maybe this button will be whether you want the online sales or not. That's just up to you to imagine why you'd have the checkbox there. But the point is clear how to actually use that checkbox and how to create that checkbox. So obviously, once you've used that checkbox to fill up your data, maybe you want a chart, you want to create a chart of all of this. But right now, this is just a shape. If you click on it, it's a shape. You can work on it in the shape format tab, just like an ordinary shape. But now I want to turn this into a button that I can click on. So again, you right click, assign macro, and then you choose pie chart maybe, and then click on OK. So now this means if I click on this shape, it will create a pie chart for me. You'll see in the cells below, it has created this pie chart for me, right? And then I can move around this pie chart, and then I can choose the chart design, the chart style that I want, and then maybe I could choose the colors of the chart that I like, and then I could choose the layout of the chart that I like. So there's all of those options. Remember how to use your chart design tab. Remember your chart format tab as well. We spoke about in the first video about pivot tables and pivot charts. Okay, so that's a few things that you can do with macros. Please play around with your developer tab to see the different types of controls you can insert, to see how to record a macro, to open this macros dialog box to see if you can click on a macro and edit it, and see if you can go and edit something and so forth, and then save and close your VBA. And that's how you work with these macros. So thank you for watching. Next video will be about advanced functions and formulas.